It is time to get into our LL football preview here on the show. And coming up, we should tell you that there are a couple of things that we've got to tick off on the agenda, and that will be the LL Football Coaches Show 1 week from today. 7 o'clock, we do it every year. We get all of our local football coaches on the program and we chat with them about their teams, what they have to look forward to, maybe some scheduling and some players to watch out for. So next Wednesday, 7 p.m., it'll be a 90-minute show, 7 to 8:30. You can see our coaches from Warwick, Ephrata, Cocalico, Garden Spot, Conestoga Valley, and Manheim Central. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. And then, just a few days after that, we're into week 1. And we get Warwick and Cocalico non-league action this year live Friday night, August 26th. Join us at 7 p.m. for that. Very excited to get all of that started. And I want to talk to the guys now about your excitement level for this new Berks LL merger conference journey that we're about to embark on, Eric. I know it's a lot more preparing for you probably, 37 teams instead of 24, yeah. But give me just your excitement level before we dive into each section.
Well, unfortunately, we won't get a chance to see all 37 teams, but with that being said, when this first came out, I wasn't real high on it. I thought, you know what, it seems like they're trying to mess with something that's already good. But after I was able to sit back and really look at it, and then once they came out with the way that the sections were going to be broken down, I was much more acceptable to it because I think it puts all the schools on a level playing field in each of the respective sections. So I really think that this is going to be a good thing moving forward. And I look at sections 2, sections 3, sections 4, and I think those are just going to be gangbusters week in and week out. So no real weeks off. And I think really these sections, with as competitive as they're going to be, whoever comes out on top, I think is going to be so seasoned and battle tested for districts that this is going to pay huge dividends for those respective schools.
It is interesting that you bring up that phrase, battle tested. We heard that from a lot of the coaches at Football Media Day, and we will see if that kind of does come to fruition. Tim, your thoughts on the excitement level, as we embark on something fresh and new here?
I'm very excited about this. I think it's great for the Lancaster-Lebanon League again. Remember, the Berks County League wanted to merge with Lancaster-Lebanon League. That just shows you how respected they are. But I agree with Eric, especially Section 4. That is going to be with, I think, Cocalico and Exeter and LS. There is not going to be 1 week off. And if a team could somehow come through those divisions undefeated, they truly are a great football team. But just the excitement, I can't wait just to see different schools, how schools are going to be traveling. It's going to be a whole different thing. Our parents are going to be able to make it to the games on time because they're going to have to get out the GPS. Going to be all different new things, and it is going to be great. It's just like, the SEC is expanding, the Big Ten is. We're getting better teams, but I think Eric hit the nail on the head. It's just going to make a level playing field for everybody. And I think that's what anybody who watches sports, that's all they want. They want it to be competitive top to bottom in each division or section.
All right. With that being said, let's launch into our Lancaster-Lebanon League football preview, and we will jump into Section 1. And before we show you that all the teams' makeups in Section 1, let's listen to one of the veteran football coaches in Section 1, the head coach of Wilson, on what his thoughts were on this Berks and LL merger.
First of all, I think it's great. I mean, there's Section 1's going to have us at Township and Hempfield. Penn Manor's getting better every year. Cedar Crest is always in the hunt. And Reading and McCaskey have the potential, the new coaches may take them a while, but, it's going to be a barn burner. It's just great parity everywhere. So instead of having one big game and then having all those 60-6 games where you don't learn anything, it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of undefeated seasons. There's going to be a lot of teams knocking off. I'll be really surprised if there's not a lot of shared titles where A beats B, B beats C, C beats A, just because of the parity.
There you go. Doug Doms from Wilson, a legend in the LL League, although it's kind of interesting because he is a Berks County team technically, but has been here since I think the 70s, Eric, when we had that combo. Thoughts on Wilson? Are they still the big dogs in Section 1?
Well, they are, and reading through the notes, they took a hit with some key people as far as graduation is concerned, but with Wilson, they just seem to plug in guys every year. And in fact, the one thing is, when we had a chance to talk to Coach Doms, I said, well, what kind of numbers do you have as far as kids coming out? And he said, well, we're down a little bit. We're at about 82. And I'm thinking, geez, I mean, how many schools would just love to have 82 kids come out? And that's the one thing. I mean, I played against Wilson, and I remember in warm-ups, you'd look out and all you see are red jerseys, just a constant stream of red jerseys. You think, when does it end? So with them, it's a matter of numbers, and again, winning is contagious up there. And I think when it's all said and done, Wilson's name is going to be one of those we're going to be talking about at the end of the season.
All right, well, let's give you the actual full list of teams that are in Section 1, because it didn't change a whole lot, but it is worth taking a look at just so that you're able to put it in your mind who is actually a Section 1 team this year. So Cedar Crest, Hempfield, Manheim Township, McCaskey, Penn Manor, and Wilson were all formerly LL. Reading now joins, and they come into Section 1. So that's who's in Section 1, just making sure everybody's updated and educated on that. And we will certainly break down every single section so that you know who is where. So Tim, your quick thoughts on Wilson. Are they still the big dogs, or can somebody knock them off in Section 1 this year?
But I think they're still the big dogs. Manheim Township obviously gives them a run for their money. I like what Coach Dom says. He said there's going to be a lot of shared titles, A, B, and C. And honestly, I could see Hempfield beating Township, Township beating Wilson, Wilson beating Hempfield, and everybody has one loss. Penn Manor, as he said, is getting better. Reading struggles. Cedar Crest is decent, but I look at probably the top 3 teams are going to be there this year, with Wilson probably going to be the number 1 seed come playoff time.
All right, perfect. And since we don't have a ton in Section 1, we don't get to spend a lot of time with them. So we'll move ahead to Section 2. And this is where we get a lot of change and a lot to talk about, because teams have left, teams have been added. And let's just show you, for everyone's, again, education here, this is what Section 2 looks like now. Conestoga Valley is in there. Exeter and Governor Mifflin come from Berks and join the party. Lebanon, Manheim Central, Muhlenberg comes in now, and Warwick is there. So those are the 7 teams. And when you look on there, one of those teams in Exeter is the defending District 3 5A champ. And so we got a chance at Media Day to talk with their head coach, and of course, they're excited to be in the LL as well.
We're very excited for the opportunity, for sure. I just think this is great for all 3 counties. It's just going to bring some new rivalries out, some new locations, some new competition, and we're all about competition. So, we're definitely excited for the opportunity to play in this league. The way we always approach it is 1 week at a time, you know what I mean? So we'll cross each bridge when we come to it, but there's definitely some stout competition in this conference. We're not oblivious to that, and as I said, you just got to take it 1 week at a time, and then we'll see where the chips fall at the end.
Okay, so pretty confident head coach Matt Bauer there, Eric. You got to sit in on the conversation just like I did. Talk to us about Section 2 here. There's a lot of really good teams in here. Who do you think is able to kind of come out on top after they've all beat each other up during the regular season?
Well, and looking through all the teams, all of them lost some pretty key people at some important positions. But, I guess I'm going to maybe take the easy way out here, until they're knocked off. I think Exeter, even though that they have another quarterback, and they talked about Schaffler being a quarterback, and this is one of the top receivers. And of course, he's going to be going to Penn State, but he's thinking about possibly sliding into that quarterback spot, which we won't know until week 1. But, they've got, and I think really in this section, more so than anything else, it's going to be the line play. that I think is going to be the determining factor, because if you've got some younger players coming up in skill positions, but you've got a solid offense and defensive line, that can win out, because if the line of scrimmage can be controlled and the leading force, everything else will follow. And I think right now, with some of the big guys, and I mean big guys coming back at Exeter, I think they've got to be right now maybe the front runner, although go from 1 to 2 to 3, there is not much of a gap there between Mifflin, Warwick, Manheim Central. I mean, that is going to be a race to keep an eye on all season long.
Yeah, and we'll have a bunch of those teams on the channel. Tim, it's funny, here's a story from Football Media Day. As Exeter and their 3 players were walking down the hallway towards us, the size of these guys was intimidating. When you had Joey Slaffer there and Kachese there and one of their other offensive linemen or whoever that was, just walking down the hall, towering over everyone. Eric, probably that's where he got the thing about them having really good size. It was just imposing and impressive. And yeah, we did get to talk with the tight end that's going to Penn State and Schlaffer, and there is a chance he may play quarterback. They have a bit of a hole there. So your thoughts on all of that, Tim, and maybe who's looking to take the top spot in Section 2?
Well, if you're going to have a tight end play quarterback, I would think that he's mostly going to be running the football, at least him or the offense is going to be there. So it's going to be a grounded out type of thing. But as Eric said, it's going to be the line. I remember Exeter from last year, how big those kids were. But the top 4 dogs, Warwick, Manheim Central, Governor Mifflin, what I'm going to be looking at is really injuries during the year, because these are a bunch of big kids, as you said, that are just going to be playing hard every time, every down. And you just wonder, the team that can sustain the least amount of injuries, I think, is going to come out on top. Coach Bauer sort of had a chip on his shoulder, and it's sort of I think you have to have that if you're coming from the Berks County League. He is looking forward to playing all these teams. And look, who doesn't want to play Manheim Central and Warwick every year? Because that's a good test for your team. And I like what Coach Dom said too. You don't want to have those games that are 60-6. It's going to be, every game is a dogfight, and I am looking forward to it. Section 2, my gosh, I just can't imagine you could be facing Warwick Central and Governor Mifflin, right in a row. Boy, that is just something.
Yeah, you really are going to have to be on your A game every week. Eric, I know next week we will talk with Coach Bob Locker for Warwick and, of course, Coach Dave Hahn for Manheim Central. But what about those 2 programs are you looking forward to or impressed you from Media Day that you were able to get a handle on heading into the season?
Well, first of all, you look at Warwick, you got Jack Reed. He is going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the Lancaster-Lebanon League. But they've got holes to fill up on the offensive line. Not completely, but they do have some players that they need to fill. So you give a guy like Jack Reed time to throw the ball, he will create damage. Now, he's got some receivers that he's got to work with now as well. He's got a couple coming back. So I think the first couple of weeks is going to be key for all these teams, because let's face it, you get one scrimmage, that's this Saturday, and then all of a sudden you're launched into week 1 of the high school football season. So it's going to be who can really start clicking as early as possible, because the sooner you can do that and get your offense in gear and get the defense aligned correctly, I think it's going to be a huge advantage once you get into the heart of the season.
All right, well, let's keep on rolling here. Let's keep the fun going as we change sections. So that was a wrap up on Section 2. Let's move over to Section 3, because this is going to be just as fun and maybe even more wide open. Let's take a time here to show you who's in Section 3. So Daniel Boone coming into the LL League. They'll be there with Elizabethtown, Ephrata, Garden Spot, Solanco, and then Fleetwood and Twin Valley will also join the party. So that is the 7 teams in Section 3. And when you look there, there's no real powerhouse team that rises above the rest. So, Eric, a chance to look at all of these teams and kind of break down and see who has the best shot. And you're kind of hoping or wondering, is it Ephrata? Does Ephrata finally have the pieces in all the right places and has rebuilt the program as much as they possibly can? And are they able to finally be put to the test here and come away with a section title in Section 3?
Well, I think the people at Ephrata are feeling that maybe this is that year. And I think, and as I mentioned earlier, and I think this is going to be key for Ephrata, is again, it's going to be the line. You've got some skill position players. Andre Wadman is the top running back, returning from a season ago. But I think the one thing that we have seen through the past couple of years, and this kind of goes back to what Tim had mentioned, Ephrata can ill afford to lose players to injuries because, it's a matter of then, okay, do they have the depth? They've got the talent this year that they can win this thing, but everybody has got to stay healthy all season long because Daniel Boone has got some key people back. E-Town, Garden Spot, I think was playing their best ball at the end of the season, and nobody wanted to play Garden Spot at that point. Solanco, you know what you're going to get with them. They are going to run some more, and then Twin Valley. Brett Myers is coming after coming in and taking over a program where he was at Middletown and was very successful up there. So this section is just going to be another one to keep an eye on week in and week out.
Yeah, we're saying that a lot here. The LL's really evened things out. Tim, your thoughts on Section 3 here, some of the teams that you're seeing and some of the things that you're hearing here. Let's hear it.
Well, first of all, if you're Ephrata, you just wonder if you're saved a little bit. You have a little less of the boys, and you're down in Section 4, which is a juggernaut, a little bit more, and you're up in Section 2. So I think they are perfect for where they're at. I echo Eric. Garden Spot is a team to look out for. They were a team that, as he said, nobody wanted to play last year. They will continue to get better. But, boy, Daniel Boone is one of those teams that always has the big kids. Solanco runs the football. And I agree, as Andre Weidman goes, so does the Ephrata Mountaineers. If they can control the ball, limit the turnovers, I really believe this is Ephrata's section. Based on all those other teams, you got E-Town, who is a traditionally good squad. They've got a brand new coach up there. But Eric, I agree with you. Middletown was good for years and years and years, and they've got a great coach in Twin Valley. This might not be the year because it's going to take a while for him to really build that culture up there. But if there's any year that Ephrata can do it, and I would love to see it, it'll happen this year.
All right, well, that'll wrap up Section 3 for us. Moving right along to Section 4. This one's going to be just as intense as all the rest. Let's give you a quick idea who's in the section for Section 4, just so you know where everybody was officially shuffled. This one actually has 8 teams in it, and Berks Catholic is a powerhouse. They're in it. Cucalico, former district champion, is in it. Conrad Weiser, Donegal, Elko, LS has been fantastic over the years, Octorara, and Powerhouse Wyomissing. This thing is going to be a slobber knocker, Eric, and we're going to listen to Berks Catholic's coach here talk about his excitement to be in, but just think about those 8 teams going head-to-head every week as they have to see each one on the schedule week after week after week. Let's hear what Berks Catholic's head coach had to say.
Right now, it feels pretty good. I'm excited about going into a new league. In our league, we had to go out and find 5 non-league games. And when you're a good mid-sized school, trying to find teams to play in, that's hard to do. So we're playing teams like Central Dauphin and Malvern Prep, and we were competitive with them.
Those are big schools.
Yeah. We played them tough, but I'm anxious now to go into a league that, there's still good teams in this league, but they're not good teams that are big schools and have 10, 11 fresh guys to throw at you every 12 minutes or whatever. So I'm excited about doing that.
By the way, Coach Keeley is an incredible and hilarious interview to have. He told us like a 10-minute story that didn't even make it to air about his entire career and how he got, where he is at Berks Catholic. So we enjoyed that, and that's part of the fun. Part of these Berks teams coming in, trying to get to know them, the coaches, the players, the tradition, all of that. We will do our best to kind of continually introduce you to some of these programs if you're just used to the LL League. But Eric, in Section 4, what's your temperature here? What are you feeling? Because there's a ton of teams that could really win things in here. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, and when you showed the graphic of the different schools, Berks Catholic has been a perennial contender, as has Cucalico. as has LS. And of course, Wyomissing's been in state finals the past couple of years. So, again, you've got some programs that have just enjoyed a lot of success the past couple of years. Now they're in the same section, and they're going to be butting heads from week 1 through week 10. And I just think it's going to be tremendous. I mean, as I mentioned at the open, sections 2, 3, and 4. I mean, my goodness, you can't ask for better competition. And that's why I think, once I really sat down and looked at the breakdown of the sections, I really did embrace this now, because I think you want to see good football. You could go to numerous games on a Friday night and see just some tremendous football games.
Well, we are all so glad you came around on this concept and you're embracing it now. I will tell you, I'm pretty sure week 10, we have Conrad Weiser and Cocalico football on the channel. By the way, the football schedule and the entire fall schedule is released, and you can go on over to brc11.com and check that out if you want to see when your favorite teams are on there. Tim, your thoughts on this Section 4? We will kind of pop in and out of it this season. We'll try and see what we can see. We'll see what happens in the playoffs, but give us your general thoughts heading in here.
You look at the Octorara team, too. That's a team that was a high-scoring team last year. You got a Donegal team who runs the football. They always have good athletes. And then you've got those teams that Eric had mentioned. Sorry, guys. If it went off. But my goodness, every week you've got those teams. What's going to be interesting is that the Berks County teams, there's more of them in that section, Eric. You wonder, are they going to know how to play them? And they're not going to know how to play the Lancaster Lebanon League teams. You just wonder, there's going to be a lot more scouting, I think, that has to be done now in all of these sections, from the starting of the game 1 all the way through probably week number 9 or week number 10. That's what's going to be interesting to me. The Berks County teams in section 4 know each other too well. And I think that's when the good Lancaster County teams can really make a statement.
That's interesting, Eric. He brings up the whole scouting. When you get into the groove of playing the same teams in your section in the LL every year, right? You start to know their trends. Manheim Central has pretty much been the only team that's been able to stop Cocalico. Well, now all these teams are going to have to scout Cocalico and try and stop them from week to week. That's not as easy to do if you don't have that backlog of experience against it. So I didn't quite think of that until Tim mentioned that, but scouting from week to week might actually really be a key here in this Section 4.
Well, if you go back and look at the past couple of years, though, Cocalico has played Governor Mifflin. They've played Conrad Weiser on a regular basis. They played Berks Catholic now in the district playoffs. So there's probably more familiarity as far as Conrad Weiser is concerned with Cocalico, but now you got some tape from last year on Berks Catholic. I think maybe for some of the other schools, but I think Cocalico has had some exposure to some of those Berks County schools, and it won't be as new to them because they've had competition against them the past couple of years.
All right, another great counterpoint there. Worth pointing out, by the way, Cocalico Ephrata scrimmaging this Saturday, I believe, over at War Memorial Field, 10 a.m. Hopefully I will be there getting some video for us. We'll see what Cocalico has, and we'll see what Ephrata has. We'll see what Andre Weidman looks like on the football field in his senior year. So everybody can look out for that social media-wise coming up this weekend. Fifth and final section here in the new look LL League. And Section 5, we don't have a ton, actually we don't have any of our local teams there, but it is worth pointing out, here are the 8 teams in it. You can see Annville and Columbia, Lancaster Catholic, Northern Lebanon, Peckway, they're all from the LL. Hamburg, Kutztown, Schuylkill Valley, they join the fun. So this is just a quick thing for us, Eric. How do you look at all of these teams, and is there anybody that stands out that potentially could win that section, or is this another free-for-all?
Well, and we had Columbia on the schedule against Ephrata last year, and if there was ever a year to see that Columbia team, it was last year. But unfortunately, because of COVID, it had to be postponed, and I was so disappointed because that was the best Columbia team in quite a few years. Some just tremendous athletes. I think if there's one school you're going to look at Schuylkill Valley, because Bruce Harbaugh, who was the coach at Lancaster Catholic, has taken over up there. We know what he did at Lancaster Catholic. He's going to try and replicate that now with Schuylkill Valley. And, I'd say right now, keep an eye on Schuylkill Valley as maybe the front runner in Section 5.
Yeah, interesting little connection there because Schuylkill Valley and Lancaster Catholic will play each other at some point in the season.
Yes, they will.
So that'll be very interesting. Tim, any thoughts on who stands out there, or is it kind of you have to wait and see since we really don't ever see these teams in action?
I think it's a wait and see because we know a couple of teams just from the Lancaster Lebanon League. But one of the things that I'm looking at, I don't want this to be kind of a joke, but I'm looking at the teams that have to travel a lot. I mean, you're looking at a team such as Peckaway Valley has got to go all the way to Kutztown. I mean, these kids are going to be on a school bus for over 2 hours, and you just wonder how that is going to affect the kids. It's going to affect their schoolwork as far as, when they get out on a Friday. So a lot of those things are just going to be brand new. Sometimes when the schools play closer together, they only have a 10, 12-minute bus ride. Now they're going to be in a bus for 2 hours. You just wonder, are the school districts, instead of going school bus, are they going to go with a coach bus? So a lot of stuff that you have to think about, not just on the field, but exactly, how to keep the kids safe as well.
All right, so you brought that up, and you gave me just enough time to look it up. From Columbia High School to Kutztown University, which is the general area, an hour and 52-minute drive either way. So Kutztown going to Columbia or Columbia going to Kutztown. You're all right. That is quite a haul.
It's going to be more than 2 hours. I can guarantee you that with traffic.
True, and 222 up there is a nightmare as well. So, All right, worth pointing out all of that. We looked through all 5 sections of football. We're excited for it to get underway here in about a week and a half. A week from today, we will have our LL Football Coaches Show right here on Sports Talk, our annual extravaganza. Please join us, DVR it, set some time aside to watch this because all of our coaches will be live with us chatting about their teams, and we will really be able to get into some specifics there. That's August 24th, next Wednesday. Starts at 7, ends around 8:30 p.m. We're looking forward to that. And there is one new coach and some other teams in different sections. So there's a chance to really get into some nice new stuff with all of these coaches. So join us for that.